Alright guys, today we're going to start our second unit of the year, and we're going to be looking at numeration. And what I mean by numeration is basically we're looking at how we create numbers and how our numbers and those digits get their value. So looking up here, I have an alphabet, and I like to think of math very similar to like it's another language. For instance, in our language, we use letters to create words so we can communicate and so on. Now, the alphabet by itself is just a bunch of letters. We need to use those letters and give them value and put them in place to form words. For instance, if I take D, I, G, I have formed the word dig. Or if I take K, I, D, I have formed the word kid. Well, in math, we use digits, and when those digits are placed in order and are given a value, then they form numbers. You might be asking, what is Mr. G talking about when he says digits? Digits are simply this. Digits are the numbers 0 through 9. And what I mean is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are the digits. It's sort of like the mathematical alphabet. And we use these digits to create numbers and give quantities to things. But those digits do not mean anything without place value. And you've seen this place value chart to help you understand how numbers are valued. And when we place these digits in certain spots in our place value, then they can have all different sorts of values. For instance, if I take this 4 and I go ahead and put it in the ones place, then it just simply represents 4. Okay? However, if I take that same 4 and I move it to the tens place, it no longer has the value of 4, but it has the value of 40. That's a big difference. If I had 40 apples, that's a lot more than 4 apples. And it's the place value, it's the placement of that digit that gives that digit its value. Again, if I take that same 4 and I put it into the hundreds place, then that digit represents 400. And what we're going to learn in 3rd grade is expanding our place value chart into the thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and even a little bit into the millions. Now, one thing you have to remember when you're creating these big numbers is that every group of 3 numbers you put a comma. Okay? So let me grab this comma up here. So after the hundreds place, in between the hundreds and the thousands, you're going to have a comma. Because you have 1, 2, 3 digits, so there's a comma in between the next digits. So then you'd also have a comma let me erase that, sorry about that. You'd also have a comma after the hundred thousands place. Like so. Those commas are called periods. It's kind of weird in math, but yeah, they're commas, but they're called periods. And those commas really help you to organize these numbers according to the place value. So now again, let's looking at this chart. If I took that 4 and I put it into the thousands, it's no longer 400, but 4,000. If I take that same 4, slide it over to the 10,000s, it's no longer 4,000, but 40,000. Take that same 4, slide it over. It is no longer 40,000, but becomes 400,000. Slide it over again, and it becomes 4 million. So the place value is very important in giving our digits their value. 40 million is a lot different than 4, and so on. Now we don't have to have this chart to read numbers that way. We just have to remember that the place value starts on the right and moves over from the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and millions. If I scroll down here a little bit, I can write the number 428. And because it's a 3-digit number, and I know that this is the ones, the tens, and the hundreds, I can read that number easily by 428. If I have another number over here, let's say 48,231. Again, I start on my right. I know this is the ones, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, and then the 10,000s, so I can simply understand that number without the place value chart as 48,231. And on this next slide, I'm going to actually show you how we use these commas to help us read these numbers. Let's take a look down here. Here I have the number 45,678. And it might get confusing with all these digits on how do I read this. Okay? And simply what you want to do, a trick I've seen, is you take this and you go ahead and you cover up the second part. So if I cover this up, I cover up the comma, and I cover up all these other digits, and I just looked at the 4 and the 5, what number do you think that looks like? It looks like 45, right? So that's what I say to myself. I look at those first 2 digits there, I say 45. As I begin moving this little rectangle to the right, I see my comma. That comma tells me to say 45,000. So I'm not at 45, but I'm at 45,000. Then I simply remove what I covered up, and you can use your hand, or if you're able to have a piece of paper or something like what I am. You move it, and then you just say the last 3 digits like you've always been saying with the hundreds, tens, and ones. 678. So again, it looks like this. I cover it up. I look at the number. It looks like 45, so I say 45. I slide. I see my comma. 45,000. Then I just read the number as it is, 678. So it's 45,678. That comma can help us a lot, because when we see that comma, we know to say thousand. Let me show you another number. Let's pretend I put this one down here. Okay? I cover up the number again with my little rectangle. What does that number look like? It looks like 145, right? But as I move away what I'm covering up, I see my comma. So it's not just 145, but it's 145,678. And that's how we simply read these bigger numbers. Now you just have to remember the place value. Starting on the right, you have your ones, your tens, your hundreds, then you have your thousands, 10,000s, and 100,000s. So go ahead, take some time, practice with your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, anybody that might be around, and practice reading these. Don't forget the strategy. Use your hand or something, cover up the first part of the number like so. Read it as it looks like, 145. See the comma, 145,000. then just read the last 678. All right, good luck.